Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before I get to our guests here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Carina Davis on the podcast. She's a USPA powerlifter and coach. She's also aka Quadzilla, by the way, so everyone go out and check out her Instagram, and I can guarantee you'll find out why. And she's coming to us all the way from the West Coast, but most importantly, she's our current guest. Carina, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So first of all, before we get started, what is the weather like on the West Coast today?
It's like probably 75, 80, no humidity. It's perfect.
It's like that same type of weather here in Minnesota, but this is like our best part of the year. But I gotta say, did you deal with those earthquakes that you guys have had the last 2 days? Did you feel those?
I didn't feel them. I was at the gym and people were texting me and I was like, I'm in like a concrete gym, so I didn't feel anything.
I was gonna say, imagine how bad that would be if like you were doing like a squat or something, then all of a sudden you just like started shaking, like went over. I was like, okay, that might not end well. That's why you definitely need to have a spotter, I guess, in California, just for that off factor that you're gonna deal with an earthquake. But yeah, I found that super interesting because I had a friend too that lives in LA, so I was texting him and just making sure that everything is all right. But why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory on what inspired you to not even just become like a powerlifter, but what inspired you to start working out with weights in the first place?
I've been lifting weights since I was 17, and I'm 36 now, so I've been lifting for a long time. I just wanted to be skinny when I was younger, so that's what started that. And every trainer I ever had was like, wow, you're really strong. They would give me dumbbells, and I'd be like, this is easy. They give me heavier dumbbells, and I'd be like, this is still easy. And then in my early 20s, I had met a guy and he was like, oh, let's go take you on the Marine base and have you bench press with the Marines. Because I used to be able to bench 225 like all the time. Like it didn't matter.
Dear God.
So I would just go bench 225 for reps. Like I would do it 2 days in a row. It did not matter. So I did that for years. I always wanted to be skinny. Like that was my problem. I just was never happy with myself. And back then, powerlifting wasn't as big. I didn't know anybody. There wasn't social media. So I didn't know even how to get into it. And then in 2016, I had viral meningitis and I almost died. And during that time, I was like, I want to powerlift. I want to follow my dreams. So that's when I started following powerlifters on Instagram, and I met some local ones and they were like, yeah, you just need to go compete. So then I started researching how to program because I was a trainer for 10 years. So I know how to do strength training and things, but I wanted to know how it was like powerlifting specific. And then I just programmed myself and just jumped on the platform. And 2.5 years later, here I am.
Oh, jeez. That's just awesome. And I gotta say, just going to that Marine base and doing 220. My best is 285. That's the best I've ever done, and that was, just a 1 rep. So yeah, I told her before, we're gonna wait until the very end where she gives us her best reps because I don't want her to like embarrass everyone and just be like, okay, I don't want to listen to her anymore. This is just too embarrassing. And believe me, I mean, like I said, being 6'3", she's gonna embarrass me either way. But one of the things that I like to say is that if you were to walk into a gym with 100 people, there's 100 different ways as to how those people got into the shape that they're in. Whether it comes down to their diet, their nutrition, how many reps they do, what exercises they do. So many little things add up to the overall package that people end up seeing. Was that a struggle for you when you were getting started, just figuring out what works best for your body? Because I always say, if you were to go up to someone and say like, wow, what do you train for this lift or for this body part? It looks amazing. What works best for them 99% of the time is not going to work as good for you.
I knew my body pretty well and I knew what worked and what got me stronger. So it wasn't too much trial and error. I had a lot of trial and error with like coaching in the beginning. I let a couple friends, they let me program them just for me to practice. And it's still trial and error always, because you never know how somebody's body's going to react, but it's definitely different for everybody. And even now with my coach, he's always like, okay, this worked. We're going to stick with this. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I always say you're kind of like a mad scientist trying to like concoct your own potion basically to figure out what works best for you. And now this is kind of an oxymoron of a question because, you are Quadzilla, but I always like to say, everyone always has that one body part when they get started that really takes off, that they don't have to train as much. And then everyone always has that one body part that just lags behind, that they really have to train to overdrive to get to catch up with. I'll give you my examples first. I mean, for me, my back, because I had jobs all throughout college of, lifting and loading heavy trucks. And, you either got a really good back or you quit. But I'm also 6'3", so my legs are just absolutely shot to crap. Yeah, I can't even describe like what my leg. I mean, I train them into overdrive, and still I get these from my buddies at the gym. That I just make these comments like, "Hey, you ever train legs this year or whatnot?" And then I'm just like, I swear to God, and then like calves too, because that's just one of those things where you're just genetically blessed with them. I mean, I swear to God, if anyone says that they train calves all the time, first of all, they're a liar, and second of all, it doesn't even work anyway. I always say I could inject pure muscle into my calves, and nothing. I mean, they wouldn't grow an ounce. So yeah, that's been a struggle for me. But other than your quads, because obviously that's the one thing that really shot up for you. But what was a body part that really took off you? And then what was a body part that you have to train constantly to get to catch up?
I actually had no booty when I started powerlifting, like none. And like all the squats just it really helped, and it's been like the best part of it. And then as far as like lacking, I would say like probably like my lats and my back. I have really short arms, so I struggle with deadlifts. So I've been really trying to work on like strengthening my back and my lats more, my biceps, but I have like crazy strong triceps, like the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, and I just love asking that question because everyone's answer is just so different. But going into powerlifting, what would you say is probably the biggest struggle that you dealt with when you made that transition to go straight into powerlifting?
Um, just like being like letting go of the fear of getting under big numbers. Like it's kind of scary to put 400 pounds on your back for the first time, and now I don't let that fear get a hold of me. But at first, it was definitely scary.
I was gonna say I'd always be like, "Don't break my back in half. Don't break my back in half." If I ever had that
Right.
down, yeah, and that's honestly something that I never even thought of before you mentioned it. But now I thought of, I'd be like, that'd be one of those things where like one of my a-hole friends would probably say to me, "Hey Ryan, don't think about all that heavy weight right before I do it." And I'm like, "Oh my God, you just jinxed me. Thanks a lot, buddy." But yeah, that's something that I honestly never thought of. But I mean, I can't even imagine what that must feel like. But being in powerlifting, I mean, there's such a big difference that I always love to point out because we have bodybuilders on this show, and bodybuilders, they have that assumption that goes along with them from the general public that they just must be, super strong and super in shape. But a lot of it is, a lot of it's for show. A lot of it is just,
Hmm.
from the way that they eat and from the way that they train, where, a lot of them probably couldn't even bench 200 pounds, especially some of the women that I have on. But powerlifters, on the other hand, no offense, but some of them look like they've never worked out a day in their life. And then when they go into the gym and they start, benching, like 400 pounds, and people are like, how is that even possible? Like, it's just so
Yep.
ill informed. Have you found that to be interesting too? Where, I mean, just because you don't look like a bodybuilder and you can lift more than them, some people might not assume that you can put up the numbers that you do.
Yeah, I used to get that a lot. Now, like the more muscle that I put on, I'm looking more muscular, so people assume that I'm strong. But I used to get that a lot, where they would be shocked when I throw 225 on the bench. And I mean, they're still shocked when they see what I do now, but at least I have more muscle to put behind it.
I was gonna say we had one lady on too who weighed. She's like 5 feet tall. She weighed like 90 pounds or whatever, and she was benching like 180 or something like that. And I was like, okay, I want to go to the gym with you once and then just film like people's reactions, like if they haven't seen you before. But yeah, I mean, that's why I love having powerlifters on too, because that's just one of those things where you can look at the vast majority of them and you're like, there's no way they can lift that. And then they do. And you're just like, oh, well, my entire universe is just ruined now because I have no idea.
Right.
I have no idea what's going on. So yeah, I love that aspect of it. But how long into your training before you decide to compete in a powerlifting meet?
I started training like seriously in May of 2017, and then I was on the platform in September. I had gotten meningitis October of 2016, and it took me until March to even recover. So then I had 2 months where I just kind of started just putting plates back on bars and getting, conditioned again. And then by May, I was like, okay, it's go time. Like I don't care.
For the 10 people that are listening to this who don't know what meningitis is, could you just quickly explain to them what it is and what happened?
Yeah, it was a virus that got into my spinal cord and into my brain. It was actually a common virus. I don't know where I got it. I could have gotten it at work. I could have got it at the gym. I had gone to the dentist a couple weeks prior. It could have been just something that woke up in my body because I do have an autoimmune disease as well. So, but it attacks your brain and it's very, very, very deadly. So I was very lucky.
Yeah, that's just, I mean, if that adds you more motivation to go and pursue your dreams, I mean, I don't know what is. We've had similar stories of that where people just experience that, something like that, that is so close to taking their life away, and then they're just like, you know what, I really got to go and experience, you know, what I really want to do in life. But how did the nickname Quadzilla come to be, other than the fact that, I mean, you have massive quads? Did someone just start calling you that, or was that something where you just thought that, oh, hey, it's a cool nickname?
I used to get called Calfzilla a lot by my friend when I used to go snowboarding, and he was always trying to tie up my snowboarding boots real tight, and we couldn't get them tight because my calves were so huge. And so he would call me Calfzilla. And so then when I started powerlifting, I was like, I need a cool name because my previous name was like Gary's mom, or, you know, something like, you know, for my son.
Yeah.
And so it just came up, it just popped up in my head like, oh, Quadzilla. And then I just threw the 619 on there because I'm from San Diego.
That is awesome. I mean, and it's kind of funny. It kind of relates to this, where I had one of the actresses who was in the show Entourage, and, you know, Johnny Drama on Entourage, he has this calf envy where he basically wants to get like calf implants. He wants to get big calves. So anytime I see a guest with big calves, I always think about Johnny Drama. We were actually just watching a few of the episodes last night, me and my brother, over the 4th of July break. So yeah, that's it. And again, you guys, she's one of the lucky ones with the calves, where, I mean, you don't just naturally, you're just born with them, and then, you know, you can work them out, I guess, a little bit, but you know,
I don't do any calves.
I hate you already. Good God. I mean, it's, oh geez, that's just ridiculous. But before I depress myself even more, I mean, these powerlifting meets, they're foreign to so many people because of what you see and what goes on. First of all, I mean, the biggest thing for me is that I see all these videos of some of these competitors that, you know, they're getting smacked in the chest, they're getting smacked in the back, like right before they go and do their lifts. First of all, I'd be one of those people who'd be like, ow, don't do that. Like, I'm not gonna, that's not hyping me up. That's gonna hurt me. Is that just a thing where you're just so adrenalized that when, you know, people start smacking you, it really just amps you up even more?
Yeah, it's just a whole nother like level of adrenaline. And it just, I go into a place where I start pulling up rage and like things I've been through in my life. So I'm already like pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, slap me, give me the smelling salts. And then it's just like, I get even more pissed off and just all the rage and adrenaline. And then I'm able to just channel it into like one calm action and just get on the platform and do what I'm supposed to do.
I was gonna say, if I wasn't amped up for that, I'd be like, hey, let's go outside, I'll slap you back or something like that. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, I'd be like, ow, it's like, I can't even lift that now. Are you kidding me? You just ruined my whole thing. But a question that I asked her before we started recording, which is a question that I want to repeat because I always find it so interesting, and this is the first time I've ever been able to ask a guest this, because I had a few powerlifters on, but I kept forgetting to ask them. Smelling salt. I mean, everyone here, including me, has all seen those movies, especially those football movies where, you know, the guy gets injured on a play and they bring out the smelling salt, and as soon as he takes a whiff of it, you know, his concussion is gone. Now he's absolutely fine, which, you know, that's a whole different thing. But it's just, I've always been fascinated as what that is actually like, because I haven't talked to people, a lot of them, that actually have used it. What is that like when you inhale that smelling salt? What does that make you feel like?
It literally feels like your brains are melting. And I mean, it made your eyes start watering, but it just gives you such another level of alert and adrenaline. It's just such a strong smell that you're just like, wow, like it just jolts you into like the next level.
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to try it just once, just to see what it was like. But yeah, if I could ever get I mean, I might have to order them and just like try them on the podcast or something like that, because that would be a very interesting.
You can get them on Amazon,
Yeah.
the ones that you just pop and smell. They're like $2.99.
Well, I was gonna say, I know another guy who does a podcast like at Barstool. He does smelling salt before every podcast to get him psyched up. Like right before, he'll like just take out smelling salt and just do it, and then he'll be good to go for like the whole thing. So I might actually have to go and give that a try. I'll have to go and get some on Amazon. But is there any other pre-lift routines that you like to go through, or rituals, or do you just like to do sort of what you're feeling like that day?
I will sit down and focus. I'll put on music. I'll have like certain songs at different times. Usually they're metal.
Yep.
But I start to think about my dad and what he went through. My dad was paralyzed from the neck down for 1,393 days. So if you ever see on my Instagram numbers 1,393, it's on my belt too. That's what that signifies. But he lost his life after those 1,393 days. So I think about him and everything that he went through and what his body wasn't able to do. And I'll get up there and I'll be like, this one is for you. And I just bring all that up. Sometimes I bring up other things that I've been through in my life, but I just start to focus on that and bring up the anger. And then I get the back slap and the ammonia and I just go.
One of the things that I also found interesting about these meets is that, I mean, you have 3 chances to lift the weight, and if you don't get them, but I mean, it just It's kind of like, I mean, it's similar to bodybuilding, but not really in the fact that, I mean, if you look good during a show, it can really affect you, or just even if that morning, if you haven't ate the right amount of stuff, or if you haven't drained your water. But also with powerlifting, you could just be having an off day where everyone has them, where, you might be
Oh
able
yeah.
to bench that weight, you could have been able to lift that weight easily a day before, but just because, you might not have got the right amount of sleep, something might have happened, or just, you're just not feeling it. What has that been like for you, just dealing with the fact that, I mean, it really just depends on what you're like for the day, where all that training and all that hard work that you've put into getting ready for a meet, I mean, if you're just not feeling it that day, then all that hard work didn't really matter in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, I've missed lifts, and I missed lifts that I was sure I was going to get. And it's disappointing. I've missed lifts on, not, I've been called on depth for not squatting low enough. I've been, missed a command. I mean, anything can happen on the platform. And I don't get myself down too much about that, just because I know that I still put in the work, and I know that I'm going to get on the platform again in the near future, and I'm going to crush that and then some. But I've seen people run off crying, run off stomping mad. I mean, it's disappointing. It sucks. It's hard, but you just have to know that, you have to look at the long haul, the bigger picture, and just know that you're going to come back stronger. And it's a learning experience every time I'm on the platform.
Well, just like I always say too, it's like, just to be able to get there to those meets takes so much hard work and preparation and determination that, I mean, you should just be proud of that in and of itself. And also when you're doing these, well, first of all, what does that feel like when you step up there and you got all these people watching you and you're just focusing on the weight? Do you hear anything from the outside? Because with me, I have ADD, so I was able to use a little bit of hyper focus, like when I was on the mound pitching, where I didn't hear anyone else, where it was just me and the catcher. Do you use somewhat of that, like when you're lifting the weight, or do you hear everything and just sort of let it amp you up?
I don't hear anything. I'll watch the videos, and I'm like, wow, I didn't hear. They'll be screaming their asses off, and I don't hear anything. I just wait. I just focus in on me, the weight, and then the refs and the commands, because I'm waiting for squat, go, press, rack. I'm just waiting on that.
Yeah, I've always found that to be fascinating, but what is that feeling like too for you when you successfully complete a lift and you know that you've done everything right? Does that just make everything worthwhile for you?
Absolutely. All the pain that I go through, and all the time and hours I've sacrificed, and friends and events and things that I've said no to, is all worth it once I'm up there and I've completed a lift and I see white lights.
I always say, I mean, I just can't imagine what that feeling must be like. But you do mention how, you psych yourself up, you get yourself all jacked up basically right before a lift. What is that feeling like after a meet then? Because I can imagine you probably drained out your entire body. Do you just feel dead on the inside?
Yeah, my adrenals are shot. But I'm usually so pumped for like a few hours afterwards, but I'm literally laying on the couch, like with my phone, like, I'm just going to post this. I can't move, but I can't sleep because I'm still amped, but I don't have any energy. It's really surreal
Yeah.
after a meet. It's really a surreal feeling.
I'm going to be a complete history nerd here because I had my bachelor's in business, but a minor in history, and I'm Norwegian too, so I have, Viking blood in me. But I always, when you said you were getting yourself amped up, I always think about, like the berserkers of old, where they would just get themselves absolutely jacked up, and then there's stories that I remember reading about how, like for a week afterwards, they wouldn't even be able to move just because they got so amped up and so, into it. So yeah, when you were saying that, I was like, oh, that's kind of like, they're like the modern version berserkers then, basically, when you're getting ready for that lift. But what is your diet like, or what is your eating schedule like when it comes to being a powerlifter? Because as you can see, I mean, that's basically, you're a brick shit house. That's basically what that's basically the best way that I can describe it. So what is your food intake like? Like, how much do you eat? What is it specifically?
I'm at 3,300 calories a day. I have a nutrition coach, so I try to stay 90% clean, and then I have cheat meals because I am a super heavyweight, so I like to eat. But luckily, I mean, I get 400 grams of carbs a day, and a lot of protein. So I just try to eat clean, especially during the week when I'm lifting. I'm not going to eat a bunch of crap and then go lift, because I have to lift after work. But I meal prep every weekend, all the chicken and rice, and I have rice cakes, and I have protein pancakes, and I have, everything I need, eggs and all that. And I just try to keep it as clean as I can during prep, and with the occasional cheat meals, but I'm eating all day long.
I was gonna say that's 3,300 calories. I mean, that's like me, and I'm 6'3", so that's
Yeah.
I mean, and still, I mean, I eat, like you do too. I mean, I eat all throughout the day, basically. But what is your go-to post-meet meal that you look forward to the most?
Um, it varies. Like last meet, we had a big group of the powerlifters that competed, and we went to Rockin' Baja Lobster. I don't know if you guys have that out there, but it's like a Mexican seafood, but we just had like a bunch of drinks. I always want to have a drink after my meet because I don't drink in prep. So I'm like, I don't care if it's one beer, half a margarita. That's always my go-to. But after that, I usually just want like a big burger or giant burrito or just all the food.
I always said if I ever did, a show or a meet, I would always just afterwards I'd take out $1,000 from my bank account and I just say I'm going to a Five Guys and I'm just buying them out for the night. And I'm just gonna say, hey, look, I'm either gonna die, I'm gonna pass out, or I'm gonna throw up. But either way, I'm getting my money's worth. I'm buying you out for the night. That's definitely one thing that I would do. But one of the things too with powerlifting that I find so fascinating is that, there's a lot of these, trolls that you see online with sometimes the way that you guys bench with the equipment that you use. They're like, oh, that's not real. You guys don't really go down all the way. You guys don't use proper form. We can, settle this right here and right now. When you're using that equipment, I mean, it is the right form. It's just a little bit different. Was that a difficulty for you, just realizing that, it is a different way that most people wouldn't bench? Because, like, I was raised in the old school, like, high school bench where, I mean, you go all the way, it touches your chest. You go all the way down, and, I mean, just the old school where you don't bend up or anything like that. You just go straight down. Is that difficult for you to explain to people that that is actually a safer and better way to do your lifts?
Oh yeah, people don't understand. And even my first two meets, I was flat benching like old school, like bro bench. But I still touched my chest because you still have to pause it on your chest. But after that, I started working my way into like arching a little bit. I mean, I don't have much of an arch because the way my back is set up, but I still brought my legs back and started using leg drive. And that's when my bench really changed. But it's hard to explain to people like that. It's better to have, your shoulder blades and your lats tucked under you than being flat. So
I was gonna say I couldn't imagine how much more I could lift in high school if I actually did stuff the right way, or did the lifts the right way. Because that old school flat bench, even with like 180 when I was a senior, I was like barely getting them up, and I was like, God, I could easily do 225 if I was doing the arch and everything like that. So yeah, I mean, it's just about teaching people that proper form and that proper technique. But one of the biggest myths and misconceptions that I love to bust on this podcast for any health and fitness guest that I have on, I mean, I always say it's gotten better the last 5 years or so due to Instagram, but there's still so many women that have that fear that if they go into the gym and they pick up one weight, they do one lift, they're just going to put on 50 pounds of muscle overnight and turn into the Incredible Hulk. And, I always say to that, you'd be the first ever trillionaire. Everybody and their brother would, buy whatever you're selling or do whatever you wanted them to do. Did you ever have that fear when you were getting started? And even if you didn't, I mean, I bet you still hear that all the time. How do you like to respond to that?
I used to, when I was a trainer, I was still always a little bit more muscular, and women would be like, oh, I want to train with you, but I don't want to look like you. No offense. And I never took any offense to it. And when I started powerlifting, I started packing on muscle and weight fast. And that was a little bit like alarming at first because I had to remind myself and get out of that mindset of it's just the scale. Like, you're going to be a super heavyweight no matter what. Like, calm down. You're getting stronger. So for me, that was hard personally. And now, I mean, with social media, I mean, I get 50 DMs a day of women that are like, your goals. And I'm like, where? Are you sure? So I think times are changing, which is nice. But I used to get told like weekly when I was training at a commercial gym, like, oh, yeah, you can be my trainer, but I definitely don't want to look like you. I just want to be toned and smaller.
It's like goals. You want to be able to like break down doors and stuff like that. That's your goals, but
right?
Yeah, no, yeah, and that's awesome. And I love some of your posts that you have on Instagram where you're like doing like a beach day or whatever like that, and just showing that it. Just have that confidence. I mean, it doesn't matter what you look like, and everybody's beautiful in their own way, and everybody has their own different, unique style. And it's just, I love that you're promoting that and focusing on that because I mean, I have a lot of bodybuilders on the show. I have just some people that just work out and follow a healthy and fit lifestyle, but I mean, you can follow a healthy and fit lifestyle and look any way or shape that you want to. And I think, and I really appreciate you doing that because it really does show that, hey, you don't have to, have an 8-pack and you don't have to, just be lean down to an absolute crisp at like 2% body fat to be looking good. I mean, you can be looking good at any body shape. So I really, really think that you are doing such a great thing with that. But also going off of that question, I always add on that, this is especially true for women. I think that I mean, the confidence boost that you get from working out is just so impactful when it comes to every single aspect of your life. Because I always say that is the one thing that you can take from the gym and really just impact your entire life. How have you been able to take that confidence boost that you get from the gym and working out and use it to affect your whole entire life?
Oh my gosh. My life changed when I just started to love myself. My relationships with people changed. It actually helped me get out of a bad relationship that I felt like I was stuck in. It just makes me, I make more money being positive and just loving myself and just being genuine and real. And it's just, I feel better, like mentally, physically, I'm healthier. I don't wake up and hate myself. Like all around, it just affects everything. I'm not pissed off all the time. Like it's like a domino effect. It's just been amazing, really.
I mean, that is probably the biggest thing that I'd like to tell people that are trying to, get into working out, losing weight, or just getting in shape in general. Is just like that confidence boost that you get is going to, I mean, just even me being able to go up and talk to people, especially girls that, I would have never talked to a day in my life before. It's just all of that stuff just impacts you so much. But also, you're a mom. And I always say being a mom, that's a full-time job in and of itself. How are you able to balance, having a kid and taking care of him while also having to live this powerlifting lifestyle where, I mean, you have to be at the gym a vast amount of time. You have to get all your lifts and your nutrition and everything has to be down point. What is that like, juggling those two things?
It's a lot. I'm tired. But my gym is cool because he can come with me and run around and play. I bring iPad, I bring snacks. I get a lot of hate sometimes from people that are not in the powerlifting community, like, oh, you just take your kid to the gym all night. And I'm like, when I have him, he does go to his dad's part-time. So those are the days that I really take my time. And, the other day, when I have him, I power through stuff. My back will be on fire. And I'm like, all right, let's go again. We got to get home. We got to eat. We got to shower. We got to do homework. On the days that we don't go to the gym, that we have homework and we have our schedule. But everything is just like a really like tight routine. So I've had to do that and just I've got it down. Being in a routine helps. So.
Which is like I told her before we started recording this podcast that, I mean, I am single and not looking to have any kids for the next like 4 or 5 years. So, I'm enjoying that while it lasts, but everyone just realized that, it's a huge life change. So, and just the fact that you're able to go through that and, still be able to be such a great athlete and also a great mom in that too. I mean, I think that is just so great, but how important is it for you too, to also set that positive example for your kid? Because I've had a health and fitness specialist come on where he was talking about, one of the keys to breaking, the obesity crisis is, having that positive example from your parents. I mean, it's been proven that kids that have that positive example are vastly more likely to follow a healthy and fit lifestyle. Has that just make it even more worthwhile for you to just set that example for your son so that he grows up knowing that, like, hey, these things are possible?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's important for him to see that and for me to show him that. And then the powerlifting community, I feel like, is so close and tight knit. So I like that he gets to see the support in that. And he goes to all the meets with me. He goes when I coach. So he sees all levels of it. And whether he powerlifts or not, I don't care. He'll do some kind of sport, but at least he sees what it takes to put work into something, sportsmanship, all that. So I think I'm setting a great example for him, and I don't care what these people on the outside have to say.
Absolutely. And I say anyone that has to comment on stuff like that, they don't have anything better to do in their life, and they're just a bunch of trolls. And yeah, I've dealt with that even too, where it's like, oh, they look like men or something like that. Especially when I have like Theo Bibles on, I was like, well, then what do you look like if you're supposed to be a guy? Then it's like, yeah, I always find that just so funny and so fascinating. But two of the questions that I love to ask every single one of my health and fitness guests. And, this first one, I mean, there's been so many positive things for me when I've, started working out and getting bigger and stronger. But one of the negative things is that you're going to get asked to move a lot of people's furniture. You're going to get asked to open a lot of pickle jars or bottled water or anything like that if it's jammed up. But also, I'm still at home with my parents and I'm moving out in 2 months. And every single time they come in with groceries, I basically have to lift the car into the driveway and carry in all the groceries, being the good son that I am. But has that been a similar experience with you where people take one look at you and they just assume that you can do favors for them?
Yes. I have to open everybody's stuff at work. I'm in prep. I can't. Sorry. I'll open your pickle jar, but that's about it.
I was gonna say we had a fridge that was moving in last week, and I could have just called you and had you come down and move it for us. But yeah, I mean that's one thing that I just found was just so fascinating. How now all of a sudden now everyone's just like, oh yeah, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? I mean, even 2 days ago, I got a text message from a friend. Hey, I'm moving out of my parents' house. You want to come over and help me move? And I was like, first of all, I don't want to help you, but I'll do it. But it's not.
Yeah.
I won't be like skipping over there like all happy go lucky and stuff like that. But yeah, it's one of those things where I always tell them, I got to get my workout in first because I'm not gonna get too tired lifting all your crap where I won't be able to work out then afterwards. But yeah, it's always a double-edged sword for me being 6'3" because I could have zero muscle at all, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, tall guy, get over here, help me move all my stuff." So, yeah, that's one thing that I struggled with. But also, this isn't the second question, but it also sort of an add-on. You are not the average-looking person. When you walk down the street, I mean, you are gonna sometimes get a lot of stares, especially now that you've gotten bigger, and your quads, let's face it, are bigger than most guys' probably torsos. So, I mean, has that just been a difficulty for you, or what has that been like adjusting to the fact that you are going to get some stares and people are going to be a little curious about you if they see you walking down the street dressed like you are now?
I love it. It doesn't bother me. I was recently on a date with a bodybuilder, and we went to the fair, and everyone was staring, and he found it hilarious. Like, he thought it was the most amazing thing. And I'm like, well, they're probably staring at you too, but having both of us together is like a magical sight.
It's like a unicorn, basically, if they see that.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. I don't care. So I'm fine with myself.
Well, and that's so awesome too, because I mean, you work your butt off to look like this, and I mean, just go and show it off. I mean, if I had that strength, are you kidding me, man? I'd be walking through doors just with my elbows up, just walking in like that. But yeah, I mean, it's just so fascinating to see like the reactions that people get, but the vast majority I've found has been positive because I've had older, guy and female bodybuilders on, and they talk about how maybe like in the 80s and 90s it was a little bit different, but it's been getting so much better, and I think that that's such a great thing, especially for these athletes, just to be able to have that support that they honestly deserve. But now my favorite question to ask, and my audience favorite question, I always say this is a multi-million-dollar idea, but when it comes to clothes for fit women and powerlifters especially, I mean, fit guys have their own problems, but let's face it, you have big, broad shoulders. Dresses are not going to be your best friend. Jeans are another thing that we hear of all the time, especially with those quads. Good luck fitting in a pair of jeans. I mean, you're basically non-existent. What have been some ways that you have found that you've been able to adjust to the fact that, I mean, your clothing options are going to be extremely limited?
Everything is stretch. My jeans are stretch jeggings. Stretchy shirts, all that. Like, sleeveless is fantastic.
I mean, I always say, well, I'll have a photo come up right now of her of just her quads, because I'll get it from her Instagram. But yeah, everyone can just take a look and just good luck fitting those in a pair of jeans. And that's just, I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. But yeah, I was going to say stretchy things are probably like the only thing. But I always said, if someone were to come up with like some jeans or some dresses or clothes for fit women, I mean, that's a multi-million-dollar idea. So someone out there, if you are doing that, I mean, just get on it already. I mean, we're waiting so long for that to happen. But now we go to our audience favorite, my personal favorite part of the podcast, a little questionnaire. We're going to ask Carina here about a dozen or so, or a half a dozen, I should say, health and fitness related questions, and see how her answers stack up to everyone else that we've had on the show. So for our first question, what is your go-to workout song at the moment?
Right now is Hatebreed, Destroy Everything.
Sounds like a nice song. It sounds like a nice, classic, sounds like a good, child song. No, I'm just kidding. But I always say, for me, I mean, if I'm ever doing legs, that's my Metallica, that's my Iron Maiden day. But I gotta listen to those cheesy 80s music. Like, I'm a big sucker, give me my Journey or my, Bryan Adams or my Heart. I'm a sucker for those, just the cheesiest songs of all time. So yeah, that's definitely what I go to. But I have a problem. So I have a gym at home, which is nice, where when I say a gym, it's just equipment set up where I can basically maintain a pump. Basically, that's all I can do in that. But so about half the time I use that, the other half I go to a normal gym. But I am known throughout the gym as the guy who waits for the beat to drop. So, I'll be like doing like a lat pull down or something like that, and I'll just be like this for like 30 seconds. And I've had people literally come up to me and be like, "Hey, dude, you all right? Did you pull out your back or something like that?" And I'm like, "Nope, just waiting for the beat to drop." So yeah, I mean, hey, I always say, it's better than being known for something else in the gym. I will take it. But yeah, that is one thing that I have. I take that with pride now. But now, what is one item that you always need to have in your fridge at all times?
Right now I'm obsessed with sparkling water.
To be honest, I have tried that probably 4 or 5 times when I was really young. I haven't tried it in a while, but I'm not even gonna lie. Like last week I was craving some, but I didn't get any yet. So I'm actually probably gonna go to the store tonight and just get like a like a small pack of them because yeah, I honestly was craving them for a good minute. So yeah, I mean, that's one of those things that I remember having as a kid that I really, really want. So yeah, sparkling water. I mean, I always got to say the most shocking answer we've ever had on this podcast was that a lot of the bodybuilders, they use mustard just because it's 0 calories, 0 in fat. So they douse whatever they have in mustard. And I always say to that, you know, you might want to reevaluate your life if you're having to do that because, you know, I am a team ketchup guy all the way and I could not stand putting mustard on anything that I ate. But now out of all of your followers that you have on Instagram, what do you think would be the most surprising thing that they'd find out about you if they met you in person?
Um, that's a good question. I don't know. I'm so open on my Instagram.
How tall are you?
5'5".
Okay, I was gonna say sometimes people are like how short I am or whatever, but yeah, you're not that short, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know. Maybe they'd be surprised to find out that I'm not mixed.
Oh.
A lot of them think that I'm like mixed with some kind of crazy, like a black and white or Puerto Rican.
I was gonna say you almost got the dreads going, so I was like, oh, like maybe Jamaican or something like that.
Yeah. No, I'm German and Sicilian, so
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
that would shock them a little.
Yep, I was gonna say, well, I got my thick Norwegian skin where basically I can't go out in the sunlight without, you know, an SPF of 1,000,000. So, you know, you got that little Sicilian where you can go outside a little bit more. I was gonna say that's one of the main reasons why I don't move to the West Coast because I don't want to get burnt to an absolute crisp every single day. And then I always ask the bodybuilders what it's like to put that tan on. But, you know, I mean, I've always wanted to just be tan just for one day in my life. Just one day. I mean, I either get a farmer's tan or I just get burnt to an absolute crisp. But, you know, hey, it's just something that I got to deal with. But now, what is one thing, I mean, if someone were to come up to you and say, you know, Carina, we made a decision that you can change one thing about the sport of powerlifting and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you would like to see changed about the sport?
I would like it to pay more.
Yeah. No, we've heard that too. And then we've also heard, you know, like with the divisions too, like how there's so many different divisions and how they could just be like one national division that everyone goes to because we had some Canadian guests on and they have it even worse where, I mean, their federations are just, you know, there's like 20 different federations for them where if everything could just combine. But also, I mean, to have just a generalized format of how you want some people to do lists because some judges in some competitions, I mean, you might not have to go down all the way or there might be different little things to it just to have that done. Have you done those different competitions where they're like, oh, you might not have to go down as much? And then has that been just a weird adjustment for you because you might have trained a certain way?
Yeah. Sometimes you're like, I feel like I squatted low enough and then they keep red lighting you. So you're like, all right, well, I guess my butt's about to touch the floor. So you know, and then some I feel like you pausing forever on your chest with the bench, like, okay. So, you know, I mean, I haven't had too much variation. I've been lucky, but I've seen it.
Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, sometimes it's like these people want them to wait for like a full minute down your chest and be like, yeah, just wait for it. But yeah, that's that. And I mean, that's just the thing in and of itself. But have you had any close calls with weights? Because we always hear some of these stories where people, you know, they might not be able to bench enough and their person that they're having assist them might not be, you know, as on top of it as they might be. Have you had any close calls with that?
No, luckily everybody at my gym is really good and I train them well. Like I got stuck the other night in the slingshot with 365 on my chest. And I like got it up a little and then it just came piling back down. And he jumped up real quick and just pulled it off of me. So it wasn't a big deal. Luckily I try to take it extra safe with everybody.
Yeah, I always mention that because there's one guy I remember in college when I was working out who, you know, he was a scrawny kid and he thought that, you know, he could put up 200 on the bench and he didn't ask anyone to spot for him. And you know, it went down to his chest and basically he couldn't breathe. I mean, he cracked a rib or something like that too, or he cracked something like, and I was like, okay, or no, not a rib. He cracked some of his like chest, whatever that group is when
sternum.
Yeah, like a sternum. Yeah, he cracked something in there. And I was in the gym at the time. I was at the exact opposite end. And then I heard someone screaming. I was like, okay, that's not someone celebrating. That's someone screaming in pain. So we got to go over and check that out. But yeah, I mean, always everyone be safe when you're doing those lifts. I mean, what's more important to you, going to the hospital and, you know, breaking a part of your chest or impressing a girl by lifting, you know, 5 extra pounds? It's like, come on. Well, for me in college, if you would have asked me that, I would have said the 5 extra pounds. But, you know, now that I'm a little bit more mature, you know, I would, I'll go with the former answer. But now going back to the questionnaire, if we were to talk to you a year from today, where would you like to be at in your powerlifting career? Where would you like to be at in your overall life? What are some goals that you would like to have achieved if we were to talk a year from today?
I want to be number 1 in super heavyweight for wrapped and raw. I want the all-time world record bench, which is 440 right now. So I would like to bench over that in the next year. And then as far as my life, I would love for my coaching career to take off. It's really starting right now. So I would really like to continue that and just grow as a coach with my athletes and see my athletes do well.
Okay, you sort of already brought it up, and we have like 5 minutes left on the podcast, but we'll get it over with right now. Carina, what are your best lifts?
I squatted 578 in reps in April. I benched 358 in April, and I deadlifted 501. And 2 days ago, I benched 340 for 2 in the gym.
You.
Yeah, sounds about right.
That's gonna be edited out, but I mean, good God. So, but I gotta ask. I mean, first of all, I'll give like a 5-minute break for everyone to gas, basically, get their mind settled straight. But going from 358 to 440, that's a very drastic change. Are you just planning on just overloading yourself on bench to just really develop that strength?
I mean, I'm going to work with my coach and, see where we're at. I'm hoping to bench like 370-ish next month in Texas when I go compete. So I'm just hoping to put on, 20 pounds here and there. I mean, it might be the end of next year or something, but I just hope to keep progressing, which I've been doing. So that's all I can do. I'm going to have a nice long off season. So I'm going to stay healthy and do all the recovery, mobility stuff, and see where it gets me.
One of the things, though, too, that is in reps. Could you explain to people what reps are? And also, I've heard that, that really does help you with your lifts. How does that help you be able to lift more weight?
Reps, they can add on like 10% to your lift. They're just really tight. You have to usually get somebody to wrap you, but it's just a different way of training. Some of the higher end meets are only in wraps. Those are the money meets. So when I did the Kern US Open, it was in wraps only. It's kind of like a spring that helps you kind of shoot out of the hole. I do have a really strong squat in sleeves, so that helps too. And the way that my coach has me training is like 99% sleeves. So we really work on that raw strength, and then we just throw on the wraps for a few heavy singles. So, I mean, I was grinding out the 578 like nobody's business, but I popped out of the hole. So I wouldn't recommend them for beginners. It's definitely something you need to work on your raw squat first.
Who has the record for 440 pounds? Is that Becca Swanson?
No, April Mathis.
440 pounds. Good God. What's the record for squat?
601.
Oh, so you're pretty close to that, even more than bench, yeah.
Well, that's a raw squat.
Oh.
The wrap squat, I believe, is 700 from April. Look her up because she's insane.
700 pounds, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, right?
Oh, God. Do you know what the record is for men for bench?
I'm not sure.
I think it might have been like 600. I don't even know. It's some ridiculous number, but it's just with powerlifting, I'm like, good God, people, you guys. It's like, when are you going to use that strength though for? You have to like lift up a car or something like that. But yeah. I mean, that's just so amazing that the human body can do that. And I just find that so fascinating. But one of the questions that I love to ask before we wrap things up, I mean, if you were to just be walking down the street and someone were to come up to you and say, wow, you look amazing, I want to get in shape and I want to start going to the gym. So many people, the biggest challenge for them when it comes to getting started is just getting started, taking that first step into the gym and just starting to work out, because I'm a little OCD where I gotta, if I'm starting a whole new thing, it's got to be on a Monday because it's the start of the week, so I can get it's a full fresh start. And if it's if I'm gonna work out, it's got to be like a round number, so it's got to be like 7 or 8 o'clock. And if it's 8:01, I gotta wait until it's like 8:15 because that's the next closest number, maybe like 8:10. So then I'll just listen to music and just walk around. But I'm one of those OCD people, so for me, I mean, but once I get started, it is just, like I always say, once you walk into a gym, it is so hard to leave it without working out. What tips and ideas do you like that, give to people so that they're able to get started in their journey and that they're able to see those results that they want?
I would definitely say, like, if you can find a friend or somebody to go with that'll motivate you, find what it is that's motivating you and just get there. If you just need to drive to the gym and sit in the parking lot for 20 minutes and call somebody and tell them, just tell me to go inside. I mean, just once you go into the gym, I feel like you're not going to walk out without doing something. But if you definitely can have a friend that can help you or keep you accountable, that's always really good. You can start your own like Instagram page, literally just to keep yourself accountable. Like, I'm going to post every day that I go to the gym. I'm going to post, my workout, or I'm going to post my meals. Whatever you need to do to keep yourself accountable, there's a million ways to do it.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I highly recommend everyone go and check her out. I'll leave a link down to her Instagram down below. And lastly, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to? Any sponsors? Any people before we wrap things up?
Definitely my coach Brandon Allen, and then my sponsors are Gamba Athletics, Fighter Quit, 7C's Roasting, and I'm an ambassador for Iron Rebel. I'd love to be sponsored by them.
Again, Iron Rebel, we're calling you out right now. Get this lady a sponsorship, for God's sake. Look at how much she's lifting. That's just absolutely ridiculous. And lastly, what would you say is probably the biggest myth and stereotype that people have about powerlifters that isn't true?
There's so many. I mean,
we can go down the list.
I would say that, well, I mean, that everyone's on steroids, like regardless of, that we're all just on steroids and that's the only reason why we're strong. It's not true. A lot of people are, a lot of people aren't. I don't know. It's personal choice, but it's definitely a misconception. And then the other one is that, just because I am super heavyweight, that I just eat bullshit 24/7, which isn't true. I only eat bullshit like 1 hour a week.
I was going to say that's a myth. Before I started having powerlifters on, that was a myth that I believed too. I was like, God, these people are lucky. They get to eat whatever the hell they want and they can just but no, it is definitely not that. But I got to say, for me too, a misconception that I had about powerlifting before I started, going to the gym and seeing powerlifters and talking with them. A lot of times you just see them on Instagram or whatever, and they look like some of the meanest people you'll ever meet in your entire life, where you're just like, I do not want to run into that person ever. Like, I just, I'll have I got to make sure I have like a pocket knife or something on me if I run into one of those people. But again, some of the nicest people you will ever meet on the planet. They're just getting, like, for those lifts, they're just getting themselves psyched up just for that lift. And that's, totally understandable. But if there's one thing from this podcast that I could, just tell the general public is, they're some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Just go up and approach them, and they're more than willing to help you out. And again, Carina, we cannot thank you enough for being on the podcast. Lastly, to really embarrass us, can you give us a shot of your quads, first of all, just so that everyone can just drool and just realize how big they are?
You want me to stand up?
Sure, yeah, just to embarrass everyone.
Okay. There, let me pump them up a little. 30 inches.
I was going to ask her how many inches, but 30. Good. This is just completely honest. Like, this is an honest question. Do you sometimes have trouble, like, fitting through, like, walkways and doors? And that's just completely honest. Yeah. You do? Yeah.
Yeah, and like small chairs are super uncomfortable.
I was gonna say, good luck on an airplane, getting a one-seater for her, but that is just so amazing. But Carina, we cannot thank you enough for being on the podcast. I really, really appreciate you having on and sharing your story. And again, everyone, go and give her a follow on Instagram down below. And again, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.